ever been completely cornered, facing, well, impossible odds, and then suddenly everything just changes, the rules flip.
Uh-huh. That's exactly the kind of raw intensity we're getting into today. We're doing a deep dive into Chapter 14, The Answers You Wanted.
It's quite a chapter. The escalation is immediate, isn't it? Our survivors are really backed into a corner in that jungle.
They really are. Facing the corrupted head-on. And the chapter, it just throws you right into the middle of this incredibly brutal fight.
Exactly.
Right?
And today, we're really zeroing in on this jungle confrontation and what happens right after. We're looking at those individual moments, Jim's surge of power, Jordan's transformation, Mayo's unique perspective.
And tragically, Claudia's elimination from the group. It's a pivotal chapter for all of them.
Absolutely. So our mission really is to unpack what happened, why it matters for each character, and what these intense moments reveal about who they are now.
And it's important to remember where they were just before this kicked off. I mean, Jordan was fading fast with that blue rot.
Right, and Claudia and Mayo had just poured out so much energy trying to save him.
While Jim was still wrestling with his past, his grief, and this creeping dread, the tension was already sky high.
Okay, let's start with Jim. His experience really explodes onto the page. There's this almost overwhelming sensory overload described.
Oh yeah, the screaming jungle, the twisted trees, the ground practically pulsing underfoot.
And then the corrupted arrive. It's described less like a frantic attack and more like this relentless tide.
Yeah, inexorable. And the descriptions are so vivid, aren't they? This awful fusion of bark and sinew and stone.
Yeah.
All lit by that creepy blue light. And those details like antlers made of human fingers or the dripping sap, it really drives home how unnatural, how wrong this transformation is.
Truly grotesque. And Jim, his reaction is instantaneous, zero hesitation. He just slams his hand into the dirt.
And the island itself seems to roar back in response. Roots like spears, that boulder reforming, lifting him up. It's like the ground itself is joining the fight.
What's really interesting is how the text describes the power source. It makes a point of saying it's not Jim's rage.
Right. It's the island's fury running through him, which, raises all sorts of questions about his connection to this place. Is this power sustainable? Is it even safe for him?
Good point. And he uses it with such brutality, crushing, throwing, shattering these things.
But then there's that deeply unsettling detail. As they're destroyed, he gets these flashes.
The faces. Ordinary people. A woman with gray curls, a kid in a red raincoat, a man with a burn mark.
Exactly. Those glimpses of who they were, it adds this layer of profound tragedy to the horror, doesn't it?
It really does. It forces Jim and us, I think, to see them not just as monsters, but as victims.
Yeah, victims of whatever the island did to them. It blurs that line completely.
And the text says it doesn't make Jim feel strong, just furious, like he's channeling the island's pain.
Then his focus shifts. He sees Jordan, still down, weaponless, ragged, and Jim thinks he has fire but no spark.
And in this incredibly charged moment, he reaches out, transfers some of his light to Jordan. What's the significance there?
Oh, it's huge. Pivotal on multiple levels. First, you see Jordan physically change, eyes blazing, posture shifts, energy floods back.
Right.
But just as importantly, Jim has this sudden, shocking realization in that moment of connection.
His nephew.
Yeah, Jordan is his nephew. All that history, that family bond, crashing back into focus right there in the middle of the chaos, must add such weight to everything.
You feel it in his command to Jordan. Just raw, direct, go break something.
Primal. And Jim himself seems almost lost to it then. Forgets the warnings, just pure destruction. The jungle literally parting before him. It's a complete surrender to that power, to that moment. And that final image, Jim lifting his arms. And the island lifting them too. It feels less like defense and more like...
Yeah, brutal punishment. It leaves you feeling really uneasy about his transformation and maybe about the island's ultimate goals.
Definitely. Okay, so Jordan, his side of this is terrifying. He hits the ground hard, mud, snarling all around him. Remembers the fungus being frozen.
And importantly, no whispers, no commands from Chris anymore, just his own heartbeat and pure chaos.
And the sheer number of corrupted closing in. Blackened figures, jerking movements, those unhinged jaws, the glowing eyes.
The descriptions are again just nightmarish. Dragging legs, exposed ribs, that blue fungus visible, skin sloughing off.
And those awful little remnants of humanity. The tattered wedding veil, the melted stuffed animal clutched in a hand. It really hammers home the tragedy.
And their silence is somehow worse than noise, isn't it? Just groaning joints, crunching feet, that hissing blue ooze.
Until one finds him. And it smiles.
Oh, that detail. That's chilling.
It really is. That flicker of twisted awareness, that perversion of a human expression. It suggests something more than just mindless corruption. It's deeply disturbing.
And then Jordan has this horrible realization. These were people, survivors, fighters just like them. He sees what he almost became.
That recognition is critical. It makes the threat so personal, so terrifying, and then they attack him. Grabbing hands, pain, he stumbles.
It's intimate, brutal. He falls.
But just as it seems hopeless, Jim arrives, like a column of golden light. The text says he's no longer just a man.
And when Jim hits the ground, the corrupted near him just burst, that raw power.
And then Jim puts his palm on Jordan's chest. The transfer of light. It's described as fire, completely unlike Chris's cold influence.
Yeah, that contrast feels really important. What do you think that suggests about the light itself, or maybe its source?
Well, it implies a fundamental difference, right? Chris's light felt like control, maybe manipulation. Jim's feels like raw, untamed energy. Life force, maybe.
And the effect on Jordan is immediate. He gasps, arches his back, finds his feet. Vision sharpens, fear evaporates. His hands are burning gold. The rot actually recoils.
The corrupted falter. And in that moment, looking at Jim, these memories surface. Unexpectedly warm, familiar things.
Barbecues being swung around as a kid.
Exactly. That grounding in a shared past, it anchors him. It reminds him who he is, who Jim is to him, even amidst this insane transformation.
Leading to that question, loaded with shock and dawning understanding. Uncle Jim.
Followed by Jim's instruction, go break something. It's like permission to finally let loose.
And he does. Doesn't even think. Lifts an earth wall, punches it, sends corrupted flying, leaps, hurls another, golden light singing through him.
The shift is incredible. Paralyzed, corrupted, almost lost to Chris, now fighting back, fiercely, alongside Jim.
It's a total reversal. Okay, let's shift perspective again to Mayo. Amidst all this chaos, her main focus initially is just staying close to Claudia. Her own inner light is described as flickering, but steady.
Mayo's view gives us such a valuable contrast. She's not wielding raw power like Jim or Jordan. Her strength is different, is observation, perception, that ability to see beneath the surface.
She sees Jim as this force of nature, sees Jordan reborn, radiant, but also senses something unsettling in his eyes.
Yeah, something scary. And her descriptions of the corrupted feel different, too. Still grotesque, yes, but she notices details like the vines woven through them, the wrong bending joints, those blue veins.
That necklace made of teeth. Shudder.
Right. But crucially, she notices they don't really see her and Claudia. They're drawn to the big displays, the noise, the light. Mayo and Claudia are like shadows.
Which highlights their unique position, maybe their unique kind of power. Claudia can make a corrupted flinch just by brushing past.
Exactly. A subtle power. And then Mayo interacts with one herself, touches warm tree bark, feels wrong, sees one with a fused mask, teeth bared, but she stays low, doesn't threaten, just opens her palm.
And then her ability kicks in. Pressing her hand to its chest, she sees these flashes, memories.
Yeah, fragments of their lives. A cliff, a cave, a girl with a flame, a child with a compass.
All
lost souls.
More memories surface, opening a crate and screaming. A boy who trusted the wrong person, a woman who hesitated, a man who followed the wrong light.
All failed. All played by the island. It's a devastating insight into how this place breaks people. Not just physically, but by twisting their hopes and decisions.
That's profound. And through this, Mayo gets her own vision. A small cave mouth, a labyrinth, a doorway, a way home.
A flicker of hope, maybe. A potential path forward discovered through understanding the island's victims. But then, disaster.
She looks for Claudia, and she's just gone.
Vanished into the swarm. Her frantic search, the corrupted still ignoring her because she's not a threat. It's heartbreaking.
That moment where she sees a familiar figure, hunched shoulders, matted hair, stops her breath, then it just bursts in golden light.
And leaves nothing behind. No memory flash from Mayo, no sound, just emptiness. It underscores the finality, the erasure that can happen here.
Her whispered question, Claudia, ¿dónde estás? Claudia, where are you? It just hangs in the air, so desperate.
And that final image of Mayo, alone, only her own light, pulsing and fading, trembling, it tells you everything about the impact of this loss, her vulnerability now.
Which brings us tragically to Claudia. Her final moments are all about protecting Mayo. It's pure selflessness.
Right from the start. She's trying to use her light to connect with the corrupted, maybe understand them, maybe find peace for them. But it's not working.
She keeps failing, gets nothing back but rot. It must have been so frustrating for her.
But then she sees Mayo succeed, sees her finding those flickers of truth, sees her sister shine. And Claudia has this realization.
Her light isn't for unlocking the dead.
Exactly. Not in this moment anyway. It's for protecting the living, specifically Mayo.
Her focus snaps entirely to her sister, sees her glowing softly, focused, brave, but the horde is thickening, crawling from everywhere.
And then one lunges right between them, Kraft's skull. Pure menace.
Claudia shouts Mayo's name, sees her disappear behind this wall of corrupted bodies.
And that's the decision point. No hesitation. She plants her feet, lifts her arms, and pours absolutely everything she has into creating that golden shield around Mayo.
And you see it work. The corrupted hit it, bounce off, try to go around it.
She's adjusting its shape, widening it, totally focused. The text makes it clear. She doesn't care what happens to her, only that Mayo gets through.
It's an incredible act of sacrifice. And then the inevitable happens. Hands reach her. Back, arms, legs. Cold fingers grip.
She fights back, one last swing, a spark of gold. But there are just too many. And the text specifies they don't want her memories. They want her warmth, her life.
That detail is so chilling. It's primal. They pile over her mossy jaws, splintered bones, this endless weight.
She falls forward. The earth opens. But then something unexpected.
Hands reach up from below, pale human hands, endless hands grasping her.
What do you make of that? Is it the island? Something else?
It's ambiguous, isn't it? But even then, her final thought isn't terror. No scream. She lifts her head one last time, searching.
For Mayo, sees that golden light pulsing behind the swarm. That's her last vision.
And then, she's gone, eliminated.
But her final thought encapsulates everything. Her sister is not, and that matters most. Utterly selfless to the very end.
Devastating. And the immediate aftermath hits hard. Mayo, crouched in the dirt where Claudia was, the air smelling like ash and rain, that sense of something being finished.
And no body. Just scattered rot and steam. The finality of it. Jim and Jordan are there. Jim's light weak now. Jordan just sitting, dazed. Silence.
Until Mayo makes that quiet vow, in Spanish, but the meaning is clear. I found you, sister, and I am not going to let what you gave be lost.
It's a promise. A new purpose forged in grief. It gives her and them a direction.
And that direction seems to come from Jim. He mentions that cave, the one he avoided way back. That felt wrong. Now he thinks they're supposed to go there.
It feels like Claudia's sacrifice and Mayo's vow have somehow clarified their path, or at least the island's intention for them.
The journey there is slow. No more illusions, the text says, just the grim reality. And the cave entrance itself is odd.
Hidden, the stone unnaturally smooth, scraped clean, the air dry, tight. Feels disturbed, wrong.
Like stepping into another world entirely. The temperature drops, the air goes completely still, no insects, no wind, just silence.
And then it opens up, this huge chamber of black glass, an obsidian labyrinth. Ancient, smooth, and humming with energy.
It feels alive. It shifts slightly, reacts to their golden light, like it's watching them.
And then the four corridors yawn open ahead of them. Each one seems to react as they approach. The chamber breathes, and each corridor feels different. Each one wants something.
Corridor 1, the Hall of Frozen Echoes. Walls filled with frozen bodies, screaming faces. Travis, maybe even Mayo herself. That's horrifying.
The vision of being trapped, perhaps. Echoes of past suffering made manifest. Truly nightmarish.
Corridor 2, Passage of Quiet Command. That blue pulse again, smooth walls, a hum that vibrates through you. Shoulders slacken, feet want to move on their own.
The allure of obedience.
Yeah.
Giving up control. Easy, perhaps, but losing yourself.
Yeah.
That feels like Chris's influence, maybe magnified.
Corridor 3, Artery of Burning Earth. Smells like sap and fire. The ground is cracked, pulsing with molten red gold light. Breathing hurts but feels powerful, alive. The walls are like skin.
Intense sensation, power and pain intertwined. A path of raw, perhaps destructive energy. Like Jim's experience, maybe.
In Corridor 4, the mirror walk below. Mirrored obsidian, but the reflections aren't quite theirs. Other versions of themselves. It feels like unraveling. Like something deeper is watching.
A confrontation with the self, with potential paths, maybe regrets, a deeply psychological challenge under the gaze of the island itself.
They step back, look at each other. What a choice. The island hasn't given them a map.
It's given them a filter. 4 paths, maybe one goal, maybe not.
Yeah.
And it wants to see what they choose when a wrong turn could cost everything. It's not going to help them.
It was absolutely a crucible. Intense battle, Jim and Jordan transformed by this raw power. Mayo's unique insights overshadowed by devastating loss.
And Claudia's sacrifice. Her elimination is the heart of this chapter, the emotional core. A loss that changes everything for Mayo, and likely for the others too.
And it leads them here to the Obsidian Labyrinth. This feels like a new stage, beyond just survival, deeper into the island's mystery.
Where the answers they thought they wanted might lead to questions they can't even comprehend yet. The price could be enormous. We're back, and wow, the clock is ticking louder than ever for everyone left on the island.
It really is. There are only, a couple of chapters left after this one. The stakes feel incredibly high.
Exactly. So today, we're really going to focus on the paths, sometimes crossing, sometimes splitting, of three key women, Michelle, Jill, and Mayoli.
This chapter really puts them under the microscope, doesn't it? It shows how each one is reacting individually as everything on the island just keeps escalating.
You've seen Michelle, seemingly embracing the creator in that crater.
Right. And then Jill, who's got this deep, almost symbiotic thing going on with the bloodwood tree.
And Mayoli, who, after that whole Lighthouse Ultra experience, seems to have found this new sense of, self-determination.
A hard-won sense, definitely.
So chapter 14, each of them is right at a critical point, wouldn't you say? Their past choices are really coming home to roost now.
For sure. Whether it's fruit or thorns, like you said, the island's endgame is coming fast.
Okay, so our mission here is pretty clear. Let's dissect what happens to them in this chapter 14, and try to figure out where they might be heading.
Sounds good. Where should we start, Michelle?
Yeah, let's start with Michelle. She goes back to the crater.
It emphasizes it's a deliberate choice. And it's driven by regret, interestingly. She's thinking about how she chose the creator's cold logic.
Instead of the bloodwood tree.
Exactly. She acknowledges she turned away from the tree's wild, burning sorrow. So this return feels like she's disillusioned with the path she took. She realizes the island offered something raw, something real, even if it was dangerous.
Something she misses now.
Something she misses now.
So she gets to the edge of the crater where that blue-white influence of the creator is still strong. But she's not looking for comfort this time. It feels more like she wants to disrupt things.
And when she makes contact, the creator's response is weirdly fragmented, almost like his attention is split.
Split how?
He's kind of assessing the other survivors, Bryan, Peter, Mayoli, even people he had sort of written off before. But the really chilling part is how his view of Michelle has shifted.
Oh.
Any talk of the door seems gone. Instead, he just flat out tells her she's outlived her usefulness sooner than I had thought.
Wow. Cold?
Incredibly cold. It just shows how transactional his view is. People are useful, then they're disposable.
That is brutal. But even as she's hearing this rejection, she feels something else, right? Something not connected to him.
Precisely. As she puts her hand on the crater stone, she feels this red pulse answer her. The text calls it the blood of the island. It's completely distinct from the creator's blue-white energy.
So her touching it causes a disruption.
Yeah, the crater's rhythm falters and something deep inside starts to stir. It really highlights this conflict between the island's own energy and the creator's imposed order.
And then what comes out of that disruption is pretty terrifying.
Oh, yeah. This silent sentinel thing appears. A devouring vortex of black, laced with blue lightning. The creator's final tool, apparently, for anyone who defies him.
And the shell's reaction. What does she do?
There's this moment of stark acceptance. She knows she's not getting away from this. But interestingly, in that moment, she seems to come back to herself, truly back to her core self.
The creator's influence fades.
Completely. And facing this certain destruction, she thinks about possible defiant acts.
Oh, sure.
1, try to redirect the creator's own power back at his sentinel, basically letting it consume her so she can strike out. 2, pull on the bloodwood's strength, maybe fuse it with the creator's, and channel it into the crater itself.
None of those sound like survival plans.
No, none of them offer survival. But each one is this powerful statement of her regained self, maybe even a sacrifice for the others still out there. It kind of underscores that idea that you can still find agency, real choice, even when you seem completely powerless.
That's quite a journey for her. From seeking this twisted kind of salvation to maybe making this ultimate selfless stand.
Okay, let's shift gears. Jill. Under the bloodwood tree, she seems to be in a very different place than Michelle.
Oh, absolutely. The story flat out says she feels more herself there.
Yeah.
Andrew, Cowin, Boon, they all leave her there, pursuing their own things. But Jill stays.
And the tree talks to her.
Directly, yeah.
Yeah.
The roots speak plainly, seeing her usefulness. And she feels this need, this urgency to understand what's happening, to stop the fighting. So she tastes the sap from the tree.
Like a communion.
Exactly. It's not just about information. It's deeper than that.
And this gives her a vision, a big one.
A massive one. It basically reveals the island's secret history. Turns out the Bloodwood wasn't originally from the island. It arrived and became this unifying force connecting everything. Until the fracture arrived, the blue light. The vision portrays it as this attempt to overwrite the island's natural way of being with a cold mechanical rhythm.
So like nature versus machine, organic versus artificial. That's very much the feeling, yeah. This fundamental clash. And the Bloodwood resisted this takeover, trying to keep the island's original nature intact, but doing so apparently cost it, and the island, a lot.
That must have been overwhelming to witness. Does it affect her physically?
Instantly. Right after the vision, these red-gold veins of light appear under her skin. It's clearly immense power surging into her, maybe too much for a human body to handle.
But the tree doesn't care.
Seems indifferent to the cost to her. Its focus is purely on its mission. Jill is now its weapon, its scream and his fist. Her job is to find the core of the sickness, presumably the creator's influence, and destroy it.
Is there any reward?
A conditional promise. If she succeeds in this rather destructive task, there might be a door beyond the silence waiting for her, whatever that means.
So power, but maybe at the cost of her own self, for a very uncertain future. She's a conduit now, but does she get any say in how she uses this power?
Well, that's the big question for Jill, isn't it? She feels the tree's command like an instinct to pull. But she's still wrestling with her own free will. She's filled with this ancient, terrifying power that needs to be used, but where does she point it?
She has options.
The narrative suggests 3 possibilities bubbling up. 1, follow the fiery feeling toward the crater. 2, trace the enemy's pulse deep under the island towards where she saw Chris's reflection. Or 3, find Boon, the other protector, whose red light she senses pulsing like hers.
So she's caught between being a weapon and trying to make a choice.
Exactly. It's that tension between being a vessel and having agency.
Okay, so Michelle facing annihilation, Jill becoming this ancient weapon. Let's look at Mayoli. She leaves the lighthouse, and there's this real sense of clarity about her now, a kind of independence.
Yes, definitely. Leaving Graham, Tafana, and Peter behind feels like a clean break. She's walking along this coastline that's described as unnatural. The sand is darker, the stars are this pulsing blue guiding her. It feels like she's stepping outside the island's usual messed up dynamics.
And this path leads her somewhere significant.
To a forgotten boathouse, half sunken. Inside, amongst the decay, she finds something unexpected.
Which is?
An old, dusty radio. A relic. She tries to use it, tries to reach someone, anyone, outside.
Does she get through?
No, just static, mostly. But then she catches these fragmented bits of transmissions. Snippets about gunfire at the East Ridge, a containment breach, something called the chronosphere being compromised, loop integrity failure.
Whoa, so it's not just the island.
That's the huge implication. It suddenly broadens the whole picture. Whatever chaos is happening here, it might be part of something much, much bigger, maybe even global.
That's a massive piece of information to suddenly get. And right then, the creator shows up.
Right then, but not like before. The radio just dies, the power cuts out, and he's not a voice on the radio. He's suddenly just there, a presence inside her and all around her. Super unsettling.
And what does he say this time?
His words are really specific, almost calculated. He claims he never tried to control her because she always had this strong will. He says Peter opened a gate, sure, but Mayoli walked through it herself because she wanted connection.
Trying to reframe their whole history.
Exactly. And then he gives her this warning about the others.
What warning?
He says their attempts to save things are actually messing things up, that they're breaking the one thing probably tied to the island somehow that can open her door, specifically Mayoli's. And if they succeed, that door closes forever.
So he's positioning himself not as the bad guy, but as someone who can offer her a unique way out, a personal escape hatch.
Pretty much. It's the first time he's made her a direct offer like this, framing himself almost as like a facilitator for what she truly wants.
How does Mayoli react to that?
The silence after the radio cuts out suddenly feels heavy, expectant. And in that quiet, she starts questioning everything. Her assumptions, who's really pulling the strings? Was the creator just waiting all along for her to be ready to consciously choose?
So she has choices now, too.
Yes. Real choices seem to crystallize for her. She thinks about finding Peter and stopping him, driven by that unwanted change he forced on her. Or she thinks about just leaving it all, finding that boat in the boathouse and just trying to sail away, hoping there's an untouched ocean out there somewhere.
Or the third option.
Or she could actually take the creator up on his offer, accept his help, believing maybe he is right about protecting her personal door. For Mayoli, this chapter feels like the moment her agency truly clicks into place, the realization that she, and maybe only she, gets to decide her next move.
Okay, so as chapter 14 wraps up, wow, we've got Michelle ready for what looks like a sacrificial last stand. Jill transformed into this vessel of immense, ancient power, but unsure where to point it, and Mayoli finally standing on her own, realizing she has a genuine choice to make about her own path.
The stakes just keep climbing, don't they? And with only 2 chapters left, the end game is here for these women and for the island itself.
It really leaves you thinking, doesn't it? Whose potential path resonates the most with you? And what could that door the creator mentioned to Mayoli actually represent?
And considering those radio fragments Mayoli heard, those hints of a wider crisis, how do their individual fates connect to whatever else might be happening beyond the shore? Lots to chew on as we wait for the final chapters. Okay, so you're hit by this wave of something primal. The second Bryan's perspective kicks in, chapter 14, the smell, that awful decay, and this pulsing blue light in the cavern walls. It's like a sick heartbeat.
Yeah, and then you see it, this creature, just gulping down the glowing fungus, getting bigger, more wrong with every bite.
It's intense. You feel like you're not just in a cave, but like peering into some deep wound on the island itself.
That sensory overload Bryan gets really sets the tone, doesn't it?
Yeah.
His chapter 14 just throws you right in. And knowing Cowin is also hitting there, from his chapter 14 perspective, well, the dread just ramps up.
Exactly.
Our mission, basically, is to unpack this collision course they're on, this final desperate showdown in this weird cavern.
Yeah, because they've both clawed their way this far, right? Only for the master to lay down this ultimatum. 3 have come, only 1 will leave. Brutal.
And when you layer in their whole journeys, the stakes just feel immense. Bryan's constant push for power, sacrificing everything, and Cowin, drawn back, almost pulled to the island's core, something Bryan actively fought against. Now they meet here. It feels significant, monumental even.
Okay, so Bryan steps into this cavern. It's immediately obvious this isn't some glorious end zone for him. It's littered with, like, old bones, that creepy fungus everywhere, markings on the wall.
Yeah, hints of past transformations, failure.
This is a gallery of broken ambitions, you know, a place where others got chewed up by the island.
The place itself tells a story, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About the master's power, maybe, and how the island breaks people who try to control it.
Yeah.
Bryan sees all this very pragmatically.
Always pragmatic.
But is he really getting the message? Or just seeing more problems to solve?
Well, that pragmatism is definitely there with the mutating creature. He watches this horrible transformation cartilage cracking, bones twisting as it eats the fungus almost, clinically.
Detached, yeah. Like he's observing an experiment, not a monster forming right in front of him.
Is that about control, do you think? Trying to understand it to beat it?
Maybe. Or maybe it's a shield. But then the master's voice just slams into his head.
Oh, yeah. Claim this power, or be replaced.
And Bryan's reaction, pure defiance. He's not claiming anything. He thinks he is the power here, the successor, not some lackey.
That refusal to bend the knee, it's classic Bryan, isn't it? We saw it all through his journey, betraying Rosendo, needing to be top dog.
It all comes to a head right here.
Yeah.
He just completely rejects the master's framing of the situation.
Which leads to that crazy moment where he actually tells the creature, enough. Command it.
And for a split second, there's that flicker, recognition.
Just a ghost of whoever it used to be, and then wham, it attacks.
That flicker, though, it's a reminder of the human cost, isn't it? Even Bryan, trying to exert control, maybe connects with that tragedy for a second. Or maybe it's just tactics.
Could be the fight is just nasty. He dives, gets pinned, crushed, in agony. But he's still furious, not broken.
And even then, he's observing. Noticing the layers in the creature's face, the remnants of others. Grim stuff.
A real testament to the price of failing here. But his will, it's still there, that sheer stubbornness.
But is it enough against this?
And then, boom, Cowin shows up, marked, glowing blue. Just as the master declares, 3 have come, only 1 will leave.
Dramatic timing.
And Bryan, pinned and bleeding, what's his first thought? Succession. He sees Cowin posturing, the creature snarling, hears the master, and thinks, okay, time to take charge. Unbelievable.
He filters everything through that power lens, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Even pinned under a monster, the immediate threat seems secondary to the long game in his mind.
Okay, now let's flip to Cowin. His arrival is completely different. The air changes, the blue light feels familiar, welcoming almost.
The ground pulses with him. It's like he's plugging in, coming home.
Such a stark contrast, yeah. Bryan sees a hostile nightmare to conquer, Cowin senses. Recognition, connection.
It ties back to his whole journey, right? Being marked on the ship, the voices returning after Jill. He's linked to this darker side of the island.
And the cavern itself seems to agree. The walls pulse with his heartbeat. The blue light isn't threatening to him. It sharpens his thoughts, refines them.
He's not fighting the island. He's sort of merging with it.
Yeah.
That acceptance might be his biggest advantage here.
Then the master's greeting, welcome back. Simple, almost. Satisfied.
No demands, no threats like with Bryan, just acknowledgement. And Cowin feels like he belongs, like he's finally in the right place.
It suggests a totally different power dynamic. Cowin isn't trying to seize power. He seems to be tapping into something already within him, tied to the island.
So when Cowin sees the scene, Bryan bloody on the ground, the huge creature just standing there, there's no shock. He just gets it.
Gets the master's game.
Yeah, like it's not about simple fight. It's a waiting game, a test. He seems to understand the island's twisted rules intuitively.
And his vibe is just quiet confidence. He steps forward, glowing, feeling this potential inside him. He hears the labels pretender, creature, weapon, and just dismisses them.
Like, those don't apply to me. He's already decided he's the one staying.
His confidence feels different from Bryan's ambition, doesn't it? It's rooted in connection, alignment with the island's power. He sees Bryan as the outsider here.
Still struggling against the current that Cowin's riding.
So these two paths, so different, lead them both here to this incredibly tense standoff. Bryan, all defiant ambition, maybe facing his end. Cowin, embraced by the island, ready. Wow.
It really highlights the choices, doesn't it? Bryan fights for dominance, lands in this brutal spot Cowin accepts, and finds himself, well, maybe in a stronger position. Though who knows what the master really wants.
And those labels the master uses, pretender, creature, weapon, they just hang there. You could argue they fit Bryan or Cowin or the beast at different times, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's deliberately ambiguous. Makes you question who's really pretending, who's been twisted the most, who's the ultimate tool in this game.
The stakes couldn't be higher. One walks out. For Bryan, it's ultimate power. For Cowin, maybe full integration, becoming something else. Failure means oblivion.
And the master's goal is the big unknown. Test of strength, loyalty. The uncertainty is killer.
We get those little glimpses into their heads too, Bryan thinking. Kill Cowin, kill the creature, cut a deal, find the master. All offense.
Well, Cowin's options seem colder, almost. Take Bryan out, kill the beast. Maybe even use Bryan somehow. But just leave them both to it. Walk away.
Brutal survival calculus. No room for error.
It strips them down to their core instincts, doesn't it? Face through the death, it's kill or be killed, or maybe something even more cunning.
So there they are, the pulsing blue light, the smell, the tension so thick you could cut it. Bryan, pinned but defiant. Cowin, glowing, unnervingly calm. And the master's words echoing, only one leaves.
We've seen Bryan's sheer force of will, his belief in himself against all odds, and we've seen Cowin's almost serene connection to this place, this power. Such opposites.
Which leaves you, the listener, thinking, who actually has the advantage here? Is it Bryan's drive? Or Cowin's connection? What does survival even mean in this context?
And what does winning look like when you emerge from a place like this? What kind of victor are they trying to create?
It's a chilling thought to leave on, isn't it? Them locked in that triangle. Whatever happens next, it's going to be massive.
Definitely. The outcome here changes everything for them, and maybe for our understanding of the island itself. You can almost feel the tension in that lab, can't you?
Oh, absolutely.
The lights are dying. There's this hum from the tubes.
Yeah.
It's like the island itself is just waiting.
Holding its breath. And then Peter arrives.
Yeah, Peter descends, and he's just radiating this weird calm. It's so different from this scene.
It's that contrast, isn't it? That's what hits you first. You've got Mike surrounded by, his discoveries, the papers, the vials, clinging to this knowledge in the dark.
Right.
And then Peter, bathed in this blue light, totally certain. It tells you so much about where they've both ended up.
Definitely. So this deep dive, we're going straight into chapter 14 of The Answers You Wanted. And it feels like a real flashpoint.
A Tutter keg, yeah.
We've got Mike, who's been scrambling, just trying to understand the island, and Peter, who's sort of become, well, part of the island in a way.
An agent of it, almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So today, we really want to pull apart this clash that's brewing between them, especially considering how far they've both come on their journeys.
And it's a clash that feels, I don't know, inevitable, but also weirdly late in the game.
Yeah.
For Mike, finding those documents, the ones hinting at the door, the void, the failures, that changed everything for him.
Right. His motivation shifted.
Yeah, it wasn't just survival anymore. Now it's about figuring out the island's secrets, maybe finishing what others couldn't, and those vials he has.
The blue and the red?
The cold blue one with the spiral, the warm red one marked with an X. They feel like tangible representations of his choices now.
Yeah.
Potential action.
He went from just trying to exist to actively looking for a way out, or at least answers, armed with these clues and these really mysterious vials.
Totally. And then you contrast that with Peter. His path has been, well, total immersion.
Immersion is a good word for it.
His whole experience with Chelsea, going down into the engine, emerging with that blue cloud.
Even killing that creature.
Right. It all seems to have solidified this belief in him, that he's an instrument now, that he has a purpose.
And that purpose involves Mike.
Retrieving Mike. That's how he sees it, doesn't he? A soul that once listened but strayed. There's this almost unnerving certainty about him.
It is unnerving the way he arrives, so calm, the island practically paving the way for him. It backs up that idea that he thinks he's playing a predetermined role.
He's not questioning it. He thinks he gets the island's plan, and Mike's just a piece that needs putting back in place.
And the timing, like you said, it happening now so late. Maybe they both had to reach this specific point, this level of transformation.
For the confrontation to mean something, perhaps, yeah.
Okay, so Peter's arrival. It's not quiet, is it?
Not at all. This blue glow spreading.
And he just moves like he owns the place. Mike, who was in darkness just before, he instantly knows what Peter is.
And that recognition from Mike tells you something too, doesn't it?
Yeah, when?
Well, it shows how much Mike has changed. He's tuned in now. He senses the island's weirdness, its energy. He's not just some lost guy anymore.
That makes sense. And Peter's first line, "You're not exactly what I expected."
So revealing. What did he expect? Someone broken. Scared.
Probably.
It suggests his image of Mike is stuck in the past, Before Mike found the documents, before he had these potential weapons, Peter might be seriously underestimating him here.
I think so too. Peter sees him as afraid, someone who thinks they have a choice. He calls Mike the answer the island wants.
Which is ironic, given Mike just found potential answers himself.
Right, and remember, Peter's history, trying to convert Mayoli, it fits this pattern. He thinks he's the guide bringing lost sheep back.
And look what he ignored.
Revile.
Exactly. He barely glances at them, especially that red one that's supposedly hunting.
Yeah.
His focus is entirely on Mike, the strayed soul.
Like the physical stuff doesn't matter to him.
He thinks his connection, his island power, trumps all that, could be a huge blind spot.
Okay, let's flip to Mike. His reaction is just as interesting. He doesn't flinch.
No, he's still. And that reply, neither are you. Simple, direct.
After everything he's been through, that raw fear seems different now. Maybe it's resolve, defiance, fueled by what he just learned.
I think so. The whispers, the inner chaos he struggled with. It seems quieter now, replaced by this focus. He wants to understand.
And he's holding the evidence, the documents, the vials, knowledge, and potential action.
Tangible things. He's not just reacting anymore. He's holding potential counters. He's engaging with the island's mystery on his own terms now.
And he doesn't run. He doesn't immediately attack.
Which says a lot, right? He's assessing, weighing Peter up, considering those incredibly risky options we glimpse.
Run, drink red, drink blue, drink both.
Yeah. It shows the internal struggle, the weight of the moment. He's lit from within, the text says, by these choices.
It's such a contrast to Peter's single-minded path. Mike's agency, even hanging by a thread, it's right there.
And those choices link directly back to his discoveries, don't they? The blue vial. His inner voice warned him off it before. Now, maybe it's the only way to counter Peter's blue energy. Fight fire with fire, perhaps. Or maybe understand the force that changed Peter.
And the red one, burning like blood given form? That sounds intense.
Powerful, yeah. Maybe irreversible. A total gamble for control or just survival.
So you have this incredible standoff. Peter's light creeping outwards, showing his influence spreading.
But Mike doesn't move, rooted to the spot. It's that moment of quiet before the storm.
The power dynamics are fascinating. Peter has this obvious supernatural edge, right? The glow, the island seemingly helping him.
Definitely. He seems physically dominant, connected.
But Mike has knowledge,
Mm.
and these vials Peter's ignoring. Potential wildcards.
Peter's arrogance, maybe? Overlooking the tangible? That could be his weakness. He assumes his island connection makes him unbeatable, but Mike's understanding, even if it's incomplete, might expose something Peter hasn't thought about.
And this happening so late, it really makes you question the island's motives, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Were they both being shaped, guided, allowed to develop certain ways just for this ultimate test?
Like their paths were always meant to cross here.
It suggests some kind of orchestration, yeah. Maybe the island needed Mike to find the knowledge and Peter to fully embrace his role before this could happen. Deliberate setup.
And Mike's options. Running seems like going backwards, back to pure survival mode.
But the vials, they represent something else.
A leap into the unknown.
A willingness to risk everything, yeah. To try and seize control, not just react. It's Mike fighting for his own path, against the island's apparent will.
Unlike Peter's offer, which is basically just surrender, give it your agency.
Exactly. Become part of the system. Mike's choices are a direct refusal of that.
So thematically, this is huge. It feels like free will versus what?
Determinism.
Yeah, environmental determinism, maybe. Mike wrestling with these huge, dangerous choices. That's the struggle for agency.
And Peter is the embodiment of accepting a determined fate, believing he is the island's will.
And it puts different kinds of power head to head. Peter's supernatural, island-given power versus Mike's power through knowledge, through figuring things out, and the unknown potential in those vials.
It asks, what's stronger in this place? Raw force or understanding?
Plus, they've both had a kind of rebirth, haven't they?
In very different ways. Peter's forced transformation via the engine merging with the blue.
And Mike's potential transformation, self-directed maybe, through those vials, but leading them in opposite directions.
Completely. Peter's rebirth seems to involve losing himself, integrating totally. Mike's potential rebirth looks like it's about finding or reclaiming himself, forging his own way, even here.
And the island helped Peter directly, cleared his path. For Mike, it's been more like leaving clues, presenting puzzles.
Yeah, challenges he has to solve himself,
Right.
much less direct intervention.
So we end chapter 14 in this incredibly charged moment. Mike holding dangerous knowledge and these really volatile substances.
Standing against Peter, the island's confident agent.
It's way more than just a fight brewing. It's a clash of worldviews, isn't it? Different ways of understanding the island, their place in it.
Mike's fight for autonomy versus Peter's surrender to fate.
Yeah, and that image. Peter's light growing, Mike holding his ground in the shadows, clutching those vials. It's just packed with possibility.
In danger.
Immense danger, a real turning point.
It really leaves you wondering, though, in a situation this extreme, what does being well-informed even mean? Mike has facts, clues, history.
But does he understand the nature of Peter now? This thing that believes it's part of the island's consciousness, does knowledge alone give him the power he needs?
What kind of knowledge truly matters when you're facing something like that? Something so unknown. Definitely gives you something to chew on. Looking at Graham and Andrew, their paths cross in a pretty major way.
They really do.
We want to understand the core decisions, what made them tick, and how the island itself kind of shaped where they ended up.
Okay, so think about Graham. He starts out pretty strategic, very calculated. Then comes that lightning strike, which is just, wow. And it sends him down this rabbit hole searching for hidden truths.
And ultimately leads to his transformation, his elimination, you could almost say.
Yeah, assimilation might be a better word. And then you've got Andrew.
Andrew's different, very pragmatic at first, just pure survival instinct. But we see this slow change, this move towards helping others. It all kind of comes to a head at the lighthouse, where he runs into Graham and, takes a big step.
So that's our mission today. Figuring out the critical moments, the character beats that led to Graham's end and Andrew's change into this reluctant hero figure.
Looking at those turning points and what they tell us about the island itself.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with Graham. His descent, as we're calling it. It began with that very deliberate strategic move, didn't it?
It really did. Right after the shipwreck, while most people are scrambling for food and water, Graham and Ian, They climb the mast.
Yeah, for a better view, always thinking ahead.
Exactly. It shows that initial mindset information gathering, understanding the bigger picture, not just immediate needs.
But then nature, or maybe the island, intervenes. The lightning strike.
Yeah, that's the catalyst, isn't it? He gets hit, has this unconscious vision.
It makes that really strange decision. Follow the darkest dark.
Right. Because the light is a lie. Suddenly, it's not about escaping anymore. It's about finding some hidden truth, something he thinks only the darkness holds. That's a huge pivot.
And that takes him underground, into the tunnels beneath the lighthouse.
He's not looking for an exit now. He's looking for answers. And that journal he found,
The one from the shipwreck?
that's the one. Suddenly, the symbols in it start responding to him. It's like the lightning strike, or maybe just his new mindset sort of attuned him to it.
Which is weird, because didn't it repel him before?
It did. And now he touches the symbols, and bam, these intense visions hit him.
The engine, the lighthouse crystal, that ritual site. It sounds incredibly disturbing.
Oh, absolutely. The descriptions are visceral grinding sounds, screams, cold. It's not like just reading information, it's experiencing it.
And it takes a toll, right? The pain, the nosebleeds.
Yeah, and that creepy detail about hearing laughter in the dark, it's clearly costing him physically and mentally.
Then things get even weirder. The blue light starts consuming him.
Yeah, it's described as glazing him, and the island itself seems to whisper, "Thank you."
Chilling, like he's becoming part of its systems.
It really feels like a loss of self emerging,
Yeah.
and his last sort of human thought is quite telling.
At least now they'll know where to look.
Exactly. He sees it as a sacrifice for knowledge, even as he's losing himself. He's become a conduit.
And that's when Andrew finds him,
Yeah.
just as he's fading.
Right. And Graham, even in that state flickering, eyes like blue fire, his foot literally turning to smoke.
Wow.
He still tries to pass on what he learned, the 5 truths, the paths, the door. He drops the compass.
And Andrew catches it. That feels significant.
Very symbolic, I think, like passing the torch or maybe a burden. Graham's still standing, glowing blue, but the text says he's not him anymore. He's been eliminated, integrated.
So the big question is, what pushed him? Was it just his own drive for answers, or did the island somehow pull him into that role?
That's the core mystery surrounding Graham, isn't it? Did his strategy just evolve into obsession, or was he chosen?
Let's pivot to Andrew. His journey seems almost the opposite in some ways. Starts totally self-focused.
Absolutely. First thing he does, makes a raft, tries to get away from the sinking ship. Pure survival.
Even when he first meets other survivors, his instinct is self-preservation.
But there's that early moment with Cowin. He thinks about leaving him.
But doesn't.
Right. He consciously rejects that selfish impulse. It's maybe the first crack in that purely self-interested facade.
And we see more little moments like that. Helping Boon when he gets pulled into the sand.
And even his approach to the bloodwood tree. He figures it out like a puzzle, a system with weaknesses. It's tactical, yes, but not purely defensive anymore.
There's that weirdness with Jill, too. He initially dislikes her, but then she helps him get clarity. The island messes with your head, clearly.
It definitely does. But Jill's intervention seems to help him refocus, push past some of that mental fog.
Then he gets to the lighthouse. And it's not exactly a welcoming sight.
No kidding. He's immediately wary, senses it could be a trap. And his caution is justified when he finds that altar.
The one made of fused bodies. Ugh. Yeah. Including Typhana.
Yeah, it's horrific. A real confirmation of the island's dark side. But Andrew's reaction is interesting.
How so?
He's repulsed, obviously, but he doesn't linger on it. He sees it, registers the horror, and keeps moving. Still focused on finding a way out, or at least answers. Pragmatic, even in the face of that.
Which leads him right to Graham in the tunnels.
And what an encounter that is. Seeing Graham in that state, deteriorated, voice distorted.
But still managing to get that crucial information out. The 5 sites, the door.
For Andrew, it must have been this confusing mix. A glimmer of hope, actual information, mixed with absolute terror at what's happening to Graham.
And he makes that hard choice to leave him.
Yeah, the line is something like, there's literally nothing you can do for him, but there's something you can do for yourself. Harsh, maybe, but logical in that situation. He can't save Graham, but maybe he can use the information.
So he climbs to the top of the lighthouse, faces the crystal.
That massive, humming blue crystal, he feels totally insignificant next to it.
But he still has the compass Graham dropped.
And it's reacting intensely, getting hot. It suggests there is some connection, some way to interact, maybe.
And then he does something unexpected. He doesn't ask for power. He doesn't try to bargain. He talks to the others.
That unprayer, it's a massive shift for him, isn't it? He broadcasts a message.
This is Andrew. If you're still out there, don't stop. The door is real. You are not alone.
He shares everything Graham told him, the locations, the truths, the dangers. He puts himself out there, potentially risking himself to give others hope and knowledge. That's not the same Andrew who built the raft.
And then the crystal reacts.
It shatters, spiritually speaking, and he feels this surge of gold energy. It's a profound transformation.
He goes from being prey, basically, to someone holding vital knowledge.
And a sense of responsibility, it seems. The first thing he does is start thinking about those 5 locations Graham mentioned. He's not just reacting anymore, he's planning.
So what flipped the switch for him? Was it seeing Graham's sacrifice?
Yeah.
Was it the weight of the information? Or was it the crystal itself?
It's probably a combination, right? Seeing the ultimate costs of seeking truth in Graham, receiving that critical data, and then that direct, powerful interaction at the crystal. It all culminates in that moment.
It really highlights the contrast. Graham's solitary quest for truth versus Andrew's eventual act of connection.
Exactly. And Graham's choices, even though they led to his own end, were absolutely necessary for Andrew to take that step. Graham gathered the intel, Andrew broadcast it.
Sacrifice looks different for each of them. Graham sacrifices himself for the knowledge.
While Andrew risks himself with the knowledge, sharing it, both are shaped, pushed, maybe even manipulated by the island.
Understanding how their arcs intertwine really gives you a crucial lens on the bigger story, on what the island does to people.
Definitely. It shows different responses to the same extreme pressure.
So, to wrap it up, we have Graham's tragic dive into the island's secrets, ending in his assimilation but unlocking key truths.
And that directly fuels Andrew's change from pure survivor to this, well, unexpected beacon of shared hope and information. The lighthouse is the crucible where these 2 paths collide and transform.
It really makes you think, doesn't it, about that line between seeking truth and just surviving.
For sure. What kind of knowledge is worth sacrificing everything for? And when does that instinct to save yourself give way to feeling responsible for others, even in the worst circumstances? What would you prioritize?
Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take the sources you're interested in and pull out the key insights just for you. Today, we're really getting into the thick of it with parts 8 and 9.
Yeah, focusing on Boon and Chelsea, it's where their paths reach these really dramatic points.
Exactly. We want to unpack Boon's, let's call it potential, sacrifice, and Chelsea's elimination. It's about understanding the why behind how things end up for them here.
It really is striking how their journeys, running in parallel for so long, kind of hit these critical moments almost simultaneously, but with such different outcomes. It says a lot about them, and maybe about the island, too.
Okay, let's start with Boon then. If you remember, he watched up with the shipmaster seekers, right? They headed for that shipwreck, and those first chapters were all about exploring that pretty creepy vessel.
That's right. And even back then, you started to see Boon as, well, different, protective, kind of resistant to the island's pull in a way others weren't.
Like not getting marked by the bone dust. That seemed significant early on.
Definitely. Chapter 3, that was. The dust seemed to mark those the island could, get its hooks into more easily. Boon not having that mark. It suggested something, maybe an innate resilience.
Yeah, or maybe just a different connection, like you said.
Yeah.
And that protectiveness just keeps showing up, trying to help Mayo when she was breaking down.
Chapter 6 and 7.
And then that really intense moment with Andrew and Cowin when Jordana's power was affecting them.
That was chapter 10, yeah. It wasn't just about saving them physically. I felt like he understood fundamentally that the island was trying to change them to make them something else, something alien.
It really cements him as the protector, doesn't it?
It does. And that leads directly to chapter 13 at the Bloodwood Tree, where he makes that silent promise, that vow that no one else disappears, not on his watch.
So fueled by that promise, chapter 14 sees him walking alone towards the engine.
Right. Both his own stories, chapter 14 and part 8 of the summary chapter, describe this. There's this grim determination about him. He knows the jungle, it's familiar, but this path is different.
The skull-carved staircase, like an invitation he can't refuse.
Exactly. And the descent itself is described so vividly. The blue fungus, the air getting thick, heavy, and these whispers from the fungus, offering comfort, telling him to just give in, surrender.
Which he ignores.
Completely ignores, showing that inner strength again. Then he reached this huge underground chamber, and the engine. It's not what you'd expect.
Not a machine in the normal sense.
No, it's like embedded in the rock, part of the place, almost alive, churning with that blue light and surrounded by, well, bones, remains.
Creepy. Hints that the island feeds on stories, maybe? Or the people themselves?
That's the feeling, yeah. Integrated, like you said earlier. And he feels this pressure, hears faint voices like echoes from other times he nearly died. It's intense.
But then a shift. He finds the golden root and Andrew's message.
Yeah, the message is key. It's very direct, almost like a technical readout. Says the engine consumes stories, souls, survivors. But crucially, it also hints at how it might be stopped.
And Boone's reaction.
Instantaneous, no hesitation, really. Just acceptance. He knows what he has to do. And you feel this surge of power from the Bloodwood tree, almost like it's backing his play.
Then he slides towards it, towards the engine, and it reacts.
Oh, yeah. It screams, the lights flare up. It even seems to, hesitate for a second. It's a real confrontation. Boone's selflessness against this raw, consuming power.
And he steps inside.
He steps inside. Not fighting it exactly, but offering himself, and the result is immediate. Everything just stops.
The whole island freezes. Sky, waves, wind. The engine goes silent.
Total cessation of activity.
But we don't actually know what happened to Boone, do we?
Oh, it's completely ambiguous. Is he gone? Did he destroy it? Did he merge with it? We don't know. But given his entire character arc?
The protector role.
Exactly. His refusal to let others fall. It feels like a heroic sacrifice. Even if we don't see the final outcome for him personally, it's consistent with everything he's done.
Okay, so that's Boone's potential ending. Now let's switch gears to Chelsea. Very different journey right from the start.
Absolutely. She started with the footprint followers, immediately had that group dynamic, that connection with Peter. Their exploration led them underground too, but her experience was shaped by this constant struggle against the island's manipulation.
Right. We saw that with the glyphs, how communicating with the island was painful for her, conflicted. And the suspicion about Peter the island tried to plant in her mind.
Chapter 6 that was. But she fought it. She tried to save Peter down there near the engine, remember? Even when things were going sideways fast.
Yeah, Chapter 7. And her choice in the void later. Chapter 9, choosing the gold cloud, the struggle, instead of the blue cloud, which might have meant, what, surrender.
It seems that way. The gold represented continued struggle, defiance maybe. The blue, perhaps acceptance or assimilation. Her choosing gold speaks volumes about her need for autonomy, her refusal to just give in.
Even after being reforged by those golden roots, which you'd think might tie her closer to the island's power.
Chapters 11 and 12. Yeah.
She still refuses its directive at the Twisted Branch structure in Chapter 13. Says she won't be its weapon. That's a huge moment of defiance.
A massive turning point. And that refusal, that choice, directly leads to what happens in her Chapter 14.
She leaves that structure, but without anger, without fear, just resolve. The golden light the roots gave her isn't guiding her anymore. It's just waiting.
And then, just like in Boone's narrative, everything stops. The engine falling silent impacts her reality too, shows how connected everything is.
And she has that moment of clarity about Peter, doesn't she? Only one of them returned as themselves.
Yeah.
Such a grim realization.
Yeah, acknowledging the cost, what the island can do, but she keeps walking, deliberately avoiding the paths the island seems to want her to take.
And then, the unraveling begins.
It's described so strangely, gradually, painlessly.
Like it's not a punishment. That's what struck me.
Exactly. The text is quite clear on that. It's not retribution because she disobeyed. It's more like the island is just taking back the energy, the material it invested in her. She was remade, reforged by its power.
The golden roots.
Right. But she refused to use that power for the island's purpose. So it simply reclaims it, like reclaiming nutrients. She becomes sustenance.
The descriptions are haunting. Numbness, her legs just gone. Turning to earth, vines growing through her boots, skin softening, hair listening.
Her limbs melting, chest caving in. Even her voice becomes like golden dust carried on the wind. A complete quiet disintegration.
Oddly serene, almost beautiful in its own way, but utterly final elimination.
It is, and it highlights how her defining trait, that fierce independence, that refusal to be controlled while incredibly strong, is ultimately what leads to her being, well, unmade in this specific way. It's a stark contrast to Boone's ending.
So, two characters, both defiant in their own ways. Boone potentially sacrifices himself to the island's core mechanism to stop it, maybe.
Possibly, yeah. An act directed at the engine itself.
While Chelsea defies the island's purpose for her, refuses to serve it, and as a result, she's Reabsorbed. Sucking him back.
Dissolved back into the island system because she wouldn't fulfill the role it crafted for her.
Which really makes you wonder about the island itself, doesn't it? Is it just this relentless system that demands obedience or integration?
Yeah.
Or something else?
Is agency even possible long-term, or does every path eventually lead back to the island's control, just in different ways? Boon's ambiguity versus Chelsea's definitive end, it leaves you thinking.
Definitely. And that leads us perfectly into our final thought for you, the listener. Think about these two endings. Boon's potential selflessness versus Chelsea's unwavering defiance. How did their core natures, their responses to the island, shape these outcomes?
Yeah, what does it suggest about the island? Is it just a place, or is it a system with rules? And what's the real price of trying to maintain your own will, your own agency in a place like that?
Lots to chew on there. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.